friends, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Bolton, the analysis days. So, oh my goodness, what a season for us in the end. I think that I'm glad that we persisted with the shape. I, as you know, was this close to switching things up just because I just didn't think it would work. And I do think that perhaps over the next couple of seasons, again, we may still have to make slight changes because I do believe that it's heavily dependent on the personnel within that shape to make that work. And I think what we've got right now is a really nice balance of the players that we currently have. Which is why I actually believe that this transfer window might be quite a subdued one, where I might be more looking for understudies to bulk out the squad and maybe like one marquee signing to go with it, because we've actually built a really strong young team with bags of potential, it would seem, that can keep developing over the coming years. I had a look at our first team squad. They're so unbelievably young on average, and yet have an incredible amount of quality for that age, which is why I believe that they're only going to get better and better. So we may find that actually sometimes making too many signings now could upset the balance. So I believe that I don't think I should have signed Tim Starks last season. I don't think it made that much difference to us overall, and I think that had Colombo played there all season, I think we would have achieved relatively similar results for the main thing and kept ourselves that money that we spent on a player like Tim Starks. So that's the sort of signings that I want to avoid this summer. My main plan going into this is quite simple. Bulk out the squad with some younger signings that are, not particularly good for us just yet, but could potentially, come through in the future, or, depending on how long the save goes on for, also just have some opportunities. I don't know. You know what I mean, though. And maybe if I do find like an amazing player in one of the many positions we have, then maybe I'd take a look at. I am really going to take a deep dive into the inverted wingback role this summer. That's my big deal. I'm actually going to do some slightly different types of scouting. So I'm going to use my scouting views that I use, but I'm going to do it based on not where their position is, but just purely their attributes. So instead of filtering it by players that can play in that position and have the role, the attributes for the role, I'm just going to filter it by the attributes for the role and see if there's, like, for all I know, there's like a left midfielder who might be an excellent left inverted wingback on attack, and I want to be able to try and find that player, and then we'll retrain them should the need come to it. And I think that might be our best approach at this point, to finally find a guy that can fulfill that role to its best. I think Candella's done the best season of his career for us, and he's definitely been the best player that's played in that role since probably the days of James Bree, that one good year he had. Anyway, jumping in a little bit more now, Ogjan Demaran, what a man. Basically 70 appearances for the club. I love him. He's considered the best player at the club. His one weakness was his heading, which has now been completely rectified, and he's he's up to 15 heading. His physicals are astonishing. He's quick. He's 6'4". He's an absolute just incredible player, quite simply, and long may it continue. I think he can continue to get better. He's still only 20 years old. I cannot believe how good this guy is. I really hope we don't lose any of these guys in the summer. That's another problem we might potentially have. O's a weird one. Like, he does still have excellent attributes, make no mistake about it, but he has been pushed down the order quite considerably, with obviously Kang being an absolute beast, as well as the arrival of Pombo, and I feel like Pombo is slowly but surely going to take over that role from O, and were I to get the opportunity, selling O might not be the worst idea in the world this summer, were the opportunity to present itself, because he is at a high value situation, and it might allow us to finance another deal. I don't know, although I do have a lot of love for Owie. Like, the man is a god. Fan, we haven't seen a lot out of him this year. He had that broken foot towards the end that kind of limited his opportunities. My plan was really that we were going to try and alternate him and Manny Farmer around a little bit. And just as I was about to start doing that, bam, in comes the injury. So I do think we'll see more out of him next year. The one leadership thing does worry me a little bit, but he's certainly getting there as a player. He's not quite, like, attribute-wise as good as Manny Farmer yet, but I think he does have the ability to surpass him long-term. And he also costs a lot less money. Alvaro Pombo, speak of the devil. I think he's definitely matching O in a lot of areas so far. Obviously, he's had an injury recently and has been the game, which I think has probably contributed to that. So I expect to see more from him next year as far as his, like, we've got him on his shooting training at the moment, just to try to bulk up that, what was it, the long shots. Yeah, it was what was this? I probably should take him off of that now, actually. He seems to have developed quite nicely. I might get him back on his speed, getting that acceleration and pace going a little bit more. Because I think that's what separates Kang from these guys. He has that added pace that really allows him to drive forward, and I think that's why Low Everton was quite competent in that position as well. Kadosh, he's a strange one. I think maybe even a loan spell, although as much as he didn't really play for us at all last year, he is actually still quite a good player. But maybe a loan spell wouldn't be the worst idea in the world for him, considering we are extremely stacked in that area of the team, now that Tim Starks is here as well. Although, I'm going to be honest, I've not been overly enthused by Starks' performances for us this season. He does have very good attributes, let's not make any mistake about that. I don't know. maybe he deserves another chance, but it's his constant partying. Like, that's twice this season that he missed training due to being out at a nightclub the night before. And I don't know if that's the kind of attitude that we really want at this club at the moment, as much as I do rate it. Oh, Regan Booty. His contract is up this summer, the 30-year-old, and I think he will finally leave the club, which is a real shame, I admit, but there's just no room for Regan Booty at this side anymore. Like, he would basically be playing... He's behind about 3 other people, really, and as much as that's a massive shame that he will be leaving, I think it's for the good of his career. Again, if you love him, let him go. Luca Brace, weird season for him. He has actually scored a goal, has got an assist as well, and he actually has fairly solid attributes, if I'm honest. I think I've underrated him at times. Like, he is actually pretty... the marking and this is the thing. That's why I want to find a player specifically with those attributes, because Luca Brace does have some very good attributes, but just he lacks some of the defensive stuff that could definitely see him caught out. Whereas Candela may only have 8 marking, but the 12 tackling, positioning solid. He's definitely that little bit better. And this year, 4 goals, 3 assists. I don't know if that's his best year for the club. Statistically, I'd argue it even is, in fact, exactly that. Well, same amount of actual... contributions, I suppose, as this year, as that first season in the Premier League, interestingly, but more goals this season. I don't know. It seems like he's got a better average rating, which I suppose is probably due to keeping more clean sheets, etc. Oh, Flavio. 2 goals, 4 assists this season. I don't suppose he expected to be playing through the middle for us when he joined, but just having a versatile player that can play through the middle or out wide is extremely helpful. So I'm still a big fan of Flavio. Victor Conroy. Hasn't got a lot of chance this year, but there is definitely still something to this guy. Make no mistake about this guy. I think there's definitely something there. The fact that he's got 2 goals for us, despite only starting 1 game and coming off the bench once more, is astonishing. Johnny De Pestra, honestly, he's a player I could potentially move on at some point. I just don't ever think he's going to get there. I've been training him on various things like quickness and stuff since he's been at the club, and not a single notch in the right direction has been taken by him. It's just like he refuses to get faster. Like, just work on it, Johnny. God damn, you're not tall enough to be this slow. And yeah, I don't know if he's ever really going to be able to progress that much further for us. But we'll see. He's still only 20, incredibly. Akin for Maywo actually played an okay number of games for us this year. Didn't play that well in any of those games, but he did the job nevertheless. And he's an important player around the squad. But I think next summer he'll probably leave. Manny Farmer. It's definitely a better season from Farmer. I don't think that he's still pulling up any trees, but nevertheless, he has got 2 goals for us this year and 7 assists. I mean, it is a huge step in the right direction. That cannot be ignored. Like, last year in his first season for the club, he got 3 assists. This year, he's got 2 goals and 7 assists and a Man of the Match award. Like, that is still movement in the right direction to have 3 times more goal contributions. And I'd like to see more of him next year, unless we find someone amazing, of course. But for now, I'd be happy to stick with him, of course. It's just the things like his marking that concerns me slightly. But we've had him working on his crossing because he didn't like the marking training. So I thought, let's at least help him get more attacking contributions, if you like. So his crossing has actually improved too, which is a good sign. Gilney mostly made substitute appearances, but does have himself a goal and a couple of assists. Again, solid attributes across the board. A lot of PPMs as well on him, or player traits or whatever. So we're definitely, like I said, stacked in that quarter of the pitch. I think what it just is going to take is just one of these players that have really high potential and are hovering around about this sort of area of the quality chart to just sort of stop going. But the problem is, central midfielders on this year just do not seem to have anything to them. Illich, 1 goal, 7 assists this year. It's definitely a step in the right direction from last year, but it definitely is a step back in. He started so strongly that I thought there's no way that he could keep it up, and obviously he didn't, but I expected a bit more, if I'm honest. I think he had 5 assists after like his first 4 matches or something, and then he got 2 for the rest of the year. So it was a little bit of a false dawn with old Nikola Illich, but I don't know, really. Veselin Ivanov, 7 goals, 4 assists. That's fine for me. I still don't trust him playing through the middle. Despite seeming to tick most of the boxes playing through the centre, he just seems to perform much, much better when we put him out wide. I'm just curious about this, actually. Let's just see. Well, so that's kind of interesting, actually. So he did actually get a better average rating while playing through the middle. And did contribute 6 goals, to be fair to him. So I guess that's worth noting. And got more assists as well. But when we played him in that role towards the end of the year, he really did seem to struggle. He wants to move to a bigger club. But yeah, okay, Veselin. This guy is outstanding. Him and Kim are just godlike. That 16 pace, his dribbling isn't even that good. It's just pure pace that he's got, and his agility is very good too. I think that's what enables him to make those runs, and I want Pombo to be able to do that too, because it's really, really important. He's just extraordinary. I'm so glad we managed to get him in permanently. Every year he's had for the club, well, no. Last year was a step down, but then he did only play 15 times. Oh no, that was this year. No, my apologies, because when he joined us permanently, it broke it into 2 years, annoyingly. So his 3 seasons at the club, you can see that 6 goal contributions, 21 goal contributions last year. And then this year, what was that? 22? 22. So, yeah, okay, it's slightly lower. Well, overall, probably on average, it's slightly lower because obviously he played more games this year. But still, he's still got 14 Premier League assists and 8 goals. He's been extremely good. And if he could just contribute those sort of numbers every year, you just basically don't have to worry about this role for potentially a long, long time. I would still like to see him continue improving overall. I might get him on a more specified training regime, but I'm not sure quite what yet. Because we mostly play him here. So what's he really weak at? I mean, honestly, his dribbling could stand to improve a little bit more as well, to be honest. If the opportunity is there to get him to improve his dribbling slightly, then I don't see why we wouldn't take it at this point. And then there's Kimmy. 21 years old still. I actually thought he was older than this. Elite striker. He might be one of the best strikers I've had on the game at this stage of his career, anyway. To think that we signed this guy, was it first season in the Premier League that we signed Kim? Yeah, it was. £2.8 million. That is ridiculous. 17 goals, then 11 goals with the drop-off, but we were quite poor in many ways that year, and he certainly struggled with that. But this year, we've seen what I wanted out of Kim, what I knew he was capable of. I mean, with 19 composure, it's very easy to understand why he's been as good as he has. Dribbling, finishing, first touch are all extraordinary. He's quick. He's got great acceleration, which is even more important for me in many ways. Off the ball is great. He's even got great passing too. What a special character. And I hope we can keep Kim for the rest of the save, because I genuinely believe he could lead us all the way to glory this year, and would be so cool that it was actually a South Korean player with our South Korean owners that did it, because you don't often get South Korean players that are as good as this, and I'm so glad we managed to poach one before it was picked up. He was picked up by God knows who. Also, I just noticed he has 31 goals in 31 caps for South Korea. That is ridiculous. He's 21. Then there's Johan. I actually think he has gone under the radar this year as being actually quite genuinely good. Still only 20 years old. He's definitely had the season of his career for us this season, for sure. 7 goals. Like, he's played 3 seasons for us. Now, obviously, one of them was only half a year. 2 goals and 3 assists in his first season for us looks solid. Last year, just didn't work out for him with only 3 contributions. But this year, 11. 7 goals, 4 assists, 2 man of the match awards. That's far, far better from what I've come to know him at, because he's got that aerial presence. He can put a good ball in. He gets on the end of things. He's got a good finish on him. I like Johan, and I really don't feel the need to start diving in too deep to players on that side, because we do have Veslin and Christensen there should we need to. Now, the only area I think we might want to actually strengthen is perhaps to have another guy in there as well, just because with Ivanov sometimes playing in other roles, we might then leave ourselves a bit short in terms of options were we to get a few injuries. So maybe with one more, but then Colombo exists as well. So if I can find another right-sided player, I might look to bring one in. Morton Kroken, sadly, has kind of faded away this year, and I wonder if it actually might be time for him to move on potentially, just to clear up the squad a little bit and get him some football elsewhere. And there's also Mansour Mohammed, who maybe has, dropped down a little bit on this, but I think that's purely just because of how good other people have been. I still think he's an excellent central defender. 2 goals, 1 assist this year. He ticks a lot of the boxes. The aggression is the one thing that I think lets him down from time to time, perhaps. And there's not a lot we can do about that. But I still think for the price we paid, even though it was still quite a decent amount of money, wasn't it? Yeah, £15 million at the end. But I'm still thinking it was a very, very worthwhile deal for us at the time, because there was not a lot of players of his quality that we could have got for that cheaper price at the time. So still happy with him. And then Alex Bacania as well. I love this guy. 37 goals conceded in 37 games this season. He missed 1 match, which I think is when Owen Gerrard might have even started that one. I like him a lot. I know he had to pay through the nose initially. Well, no, did we really, though? Like, I think last year he did actually perform slightly better, but still, more clean sheets this year. God, he had 3 man of the match awards last season. And for me, I think that's just because he had to face so many more shots. I love this guy, and I think he's hopefully our goalkeeper for the foreseeable future, quite honestly, because he's got a lot of attributes that I really like. Loads of room to grow still. Really like Alex Macania, or rather team stats. So average possession, obviously, we're right down there. One of the things I actually thought this year would be better on would be the possession side of things, but I think we've just found a way to play without needing it as much. I was kind of hoping we wouldn't be as low as this, but it is what it is, really, isn't it? Headers 1. That's a bit better from us, actually. Headers 1 ratio. Right, good. We're right towards the top. That's the main thing. Cards, mid-table. It's fine. Points per game, obviously, we're not expecting to be too high. Our form. We don't care about the form, though. Goals. 69. Nice. I mean, that is just perfect from us, really. 4th highest goal scoring team in the league. Came 4th. I mean, what would you want, really? Goals per game, obviously, that's not really that important for this. Expected goals. You'll actually notice that we were a little bit lower than our actual actual goals for, I suppose. In fact, we overperformed, but then I suppose towards the top you tend to. But we're right in this bracket, really. We could have finished ninth, but we also could have easily, with like one tiny little tweak in a game, been fifth. So it's within the margins of error for me. But it is still interesting that we still overperformed slightly, but nowhere near as much as last season. Penalties taken, only 3, but we did score them all. Cross completion, 20%. You love to see it. Goals from corners, down at 3. That's actually quite low from us. Might need to take a little look at that. Make sure we've got the right guy in that position. Direct free kicks, 2 of them. That's unusual for us. And 5 indirects too, which is very nice. Pass completion, it's solid. Not the end of the world. Clear-cut chances is kind of pointless these days. Shots 4. Didn't even say, we're actually quite clinical. We don't get that many shots sometimes, but they're good quality chances. That's what we've really focused on. 7th most shots on target as well. Shots on target ratio is really solid too. Our conversion rate is the best in the league, which is really nice. Shots per game, I was going to say, we won't be too high on that one. Dribbles made, high enough. Dribbles per game. These ones are a bit broken though, because look, 4.818, and then if you go to the championship, oh, boom, it's 14. Like, what? Why are they so bloody broken? So, yeah, defensively, 4th best defense as well. I mean, these are all... We finished 4th, and we had the 4th best defense and the 4th best attack. I don't know about the expected side of things. Yeah, again, you see that we are just slightly... We're overperforming a little bit in places, and I think that might come around to us next year, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if next season our overall league form isn't that dissimilar to this, even if we were to strengthen slightly. But if we get into Europe again next year and continue to strengthen and bring in more rep to the club, we get a year in Europe, I think it's going to be fine, even if we don't see like a huge leap towards a title challenge this year. That would be a bit ridiculous. Well, not ridiculous. I mean, we showed that we could compete with those teams, but I just think long term we're a bit too inconsistent at times. But that's what I think hopefully will change next year, in theory anyway. Conceded from corners, 1. Oh yeah, love to see it. Direct free kicks, okay, we did concede one of those. An indirect, wow, that's part of the reason we've been so good defensively. I mean, just 1 goal conceded from corners, 1 of those, so only 4 from set pieces, and I assume there's penalties in there as well, probably. We've conceded a few of those, to be fair. 11 clean sheets, not too many fouls either. Tackles 1 ratio. Yeah, it's a bit iffy. Right, I assume that I want to see how Manny Farmer's done on the possession loss thing, because, you know, he was, like, way better than Regan Booty when we looked at it last year, but I want to see if he's improved or not. Clearances, that's such a weird number. Like, it doesn't really mean... It's very... We've only had 3 penalties as well, actually, so... Defending against set pieces this year has been a huge step in the right direction, and really, really glad that that's been a thing. Average attendance, obviously, will be right down there. We get to move into our new stadium, not this summer. In fact, I don't think it's even going to be another 2 years yet. It's going to be a while before we move into the Sir Nat Lofthouse Stadium. Average attendance still haven't managed to... Why have we not sold any games out? I don't get that. We're in the Premier League. Why are we not selling out our stadium? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's really strange that we would not get any sellouts in a whole season. You'd think like the Chelsea game or the Man City game or something, but really odd. Highest attendance was 28,000 in there in the end. Net spend, obviously, we're quite high on that one because we've got so much cash in the bank at the moment, but still have the lowest wages in the Premier League. We came 4th with the lowest wages in the league. All this extra spending I'm doing is just to try to bring us up to a Premier League standard of spending, and yet we're still not even there yet. That's nuts. Right, players. So, players, normally what I do, and I did this in the past, and it used to work quite well for me, was just look for, like, relegated sides and see kind of if any players have gone down that I kind of had any interest in. And unfortunately, that's exactly what I did when I was looking for Manny Farmer. Except, I don't know, AI clubs seem to maintain a huge amount of transfer leverage. They actually seem to, like, usually speaking, you'll put a bid in for a player, they'll counter with another bid, and the one that you'll actually get accepted is roughly halfway between those 2 bids. But yet... For some reason with Wolves, despite them being relegated to the player asking to leave, handing in a transfer request, me pestering them constantly, setting him as top transfer target, all that crap, they were somehow able to refuse transfer offers that were way above that, and I shouldn't have done the deal in the end, but it was weird that they were in that position of leverage for some reason. So, yeah, that's why I don't buy English players a lot of the time from English clubs, because they just charge the earth, and it's not worth it. So anyway, Kim Min, he got 9 Player of the Match awards this season, which is astonishingly good. He might end up winning Premier League Player of the Season, to be honest, and I wouldn't be in any way surprised if that would be the case. Although, I think Kang might actually give him a run for his money. Like, genuinely. That is a ridiculous rating. He's so consistent that he very rarely has a bad game, and I think that's the reason he's just so high, even though Kim might have, he's had more outstanding performances than Kang, but he also has off days, and Kang just doesn't really have them. Demaran as well, most headers won in the entire league, ahead of Calvert-Lewin, not hilariously, but like it's just interesting that it's ahead of Calvert-Lewin. Oh, it's possession 1, I was going to say. Right, this is a good sign for me. So, you remember in our 3 seasons in the Premier League so far, the first season, Regan Booty topped this list, and he'd lost the ball well over 600 times. Like, it was a ludicrous amount of times that he'd lost the ball. Last year, Manny Farmer topped the list. However, the gap between Farmer and the players below him was definitely better. It was still not great, but it was better. This year, the fact that he's not even on the top of the list, despite the fact that he's the only player that plays on the left-hand side for us, so it's statistically likely he's going to lose the ball a lot, is actually ridiculous. I think that shows, firstly, he's improved. Secondly, we've improved. And also, there's more options for him to pass the ball to. And our slight change in play means that he's not just aimlessly giving up possession. So to see him slightly lower down this list, in fact, I was expecting him to still be up there, but just the gap closed a bit. But the fact that he's actually, 50 less than the highest as well, is a really good sign for me about us going forward. Because no matter who played there, they would be on this list probably. But it's good to see that he's not at the top anymore, I suppose. Top scorer, Kim, 25. What an absolute god. Calvert-Lewin for Sheffield United with 19 goals, though, is a really nice sign. I sense that Liverpool may lose Rene van der Laan to Barcelona this summer, so expect that to be something we potentially talk about next episode. Timo Werner had the highest XG in the league and only managed 10 goals from it. That actually is classic Timo Werner this year, isn't it, sadly? In real life, of course, I'm talking about. That's actually ridiculous. When you look at the number of goals, like Boadu as well, with 9 goals off of an XG of 14, they've really underperformed. Kim has obviously smashed it, and long may it continue anyway. Average minutes per goals, Cebolinha of City, I think, wow, if he just played more, he probably would have been pretty damn good, but hey, they just didn't play him enough. Shots as well, Calvert-Lewin with 125 shots. Notice anything interesting there? Shots on target, 69, nice. Kim only had 44 shots on target. Oh my lord. Yeah, this is what I mean. 61% shots on target ratio is brilliant. And that's another thing. Davor, I keep calling him Davor. Johan Davor Christensen with 62% shots on target. No wonder he's scored so many goals, quite simply. Like, it's impossible not to when he hits the target as much as he does. He's going to score goals if he's that clinical when he gets the opportunity. Conversion rate is what? 35%! That is actually might be the highest I've ever... When you look at everyone else as well, I didn't realise he'd had as few shots as that. That's what really does shock me about that. That is insane. But you saw the lethality with which he takes those goals. I think it's because of his decisions and his composure. His composure is astonishingly high. 19 composure, remember this lad is. What is his decisions like? Is that quite high as well? 14. He's very, very good. Like, ridiculously good. And it just means that when he gets into those positions, he just seems to constantly either hit the target or put it in the back of the net, which obviously is still hitting the target. But I did not expect it to be as high as that, to be fair. You can see how quickly it drops off and how many more shots some of these players are having. I mean, to be fair, not all of them, but like, he's had... Sorry, I'm actually astonished by that. Shots per 90 minutes, he won't even be on there. I doubt, because he doesn't shoot that much. But when he gets his chance, he takes them. You've seen him. Like, he gets into those positions. He is absolutely lethal. I'm curious to see, as we strengthen this team, and slowly but surely over the next few seasons, hopefully start to become a title contender and battle in Europe. And, there may come a time where we actually do have quite a dominant season, perhaps. It could happen, statistically, if we carry on the way we're going. I'd be curious to see what he could actually do in that kind of season, because you'd think, statistically, he's going to get more shots and chances. I think he could have one of those, like, Norman Millington, Marcelo Di Placido-esque seasons, potentially. And I've not had a striker, really, on FM for a while. Certainly in my rebuilding saves, have seasons like that. Because obviously last year, the strikers were kind of a bit broken, so you couldn't really get that out of them if you liked. And I did kind of struggle on the previous year's game as well. So we might end up be harking back to my first sort of experience of doing YouTube to see a striker like that. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, yeah? He's not had the Norman Millington-esque season yet. I can't remember exactly. Historians of the channel may be able to remember and actually remind me how many goals Norman Millington got in a season, because I swear he got 40 once. I swear, in the Premier League. Anyway, I digress. Free kick goals. There have been a few of them. Stars grabbed one, and obviously Kimmy got one as well. That was a very important goal as well. I'm trying to think who it was against. It was a late free kick to win a game, I think, that Kimmy got. It was like 1-0. It was Arsenal, wasn't it? It was Arsenal this season. Penalties as well. Kim's grabbed himself 3 out of 3 there, which is really helpful. Assists. Kang with 14. Nobody else even on the list, but Farmer is just off screen there with, I think, oh, look at that. Assists per 90 minutes as well. 51. Very, very nice indeed. That's superb stuff. Key passes. Kang up there again. For a guy that plays as a shallow striker, he sure controls that play, and it makes me wonder, right, if we get more out of him playing a different role. But I also think we might lose something doing that. If he's creating this amount of chances in the role he's playing, why would we change it? I'm concerned that if I did try to make him into a more creative role, he might lose some of what makes him be able to be so good at what he does. So, yeah. Bernardo Silva actually does have a slightly higher key passes per 90 minutes. I guess he's just played less games. Yeah, a lot less games as it goes. So, he is still outrageous, as is Bruno Fernandes. But then it drops off very quickly. Ben McNamee as well. This is the guy. Oh, no, it's not the guy. There was another guy called McNamee that was at Blackpool and Manchester City. So, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, Kang is absolutely extremely important. Clear-cut chances. I mean, Illich has actually created 7 of those. I don't even know what counts as a clear-cut chance anymore in this game. It's very, very strange. Almost completely ignorable now, sadly. Pass completion, it's usually goalkeepers. Crosses attempted. Look, I mean, I suppose that's because he does take set pieces too. So that's probably part of the reason. Dribbles made. We were more interested in that. Sinister, yeah, he's ridiculous. Very, very good. Matt West, of course, is the guy that Liverpool signed for Sheffield United. Kim's up there, but again, like I said, it's broken. Look, I mean, why is this so broken? Either that means that the players aren't actually making that many dribbles and they're making a lot more, or it's just misreporting it for other leagues. I don't know what the answer to that is, sadly. Tackles 1, Chris Mepham was at Manchester United. I meant to mention this in a video, but he came off the bench against us in the league game earlier this season, the one we played off camera. I don't think he appeared in the game we played on camera in the last video. But yeah, so Chris Mepham is at Manchester United. I don't know how much he left there. £60 million he left Bournemouth to go to Manchester United. Fair play. Fair play to Bournemouth anyway. I don't know how he's actually performed at Man United. But then again, tackles 1 ratio, 95%. It would indicate pretty bloody well, I suppose. Tackles 1 per 90 minutes. Who went down this year? It was Leicester City were one of the ones that went down. And I think they might be interesting because they've got some good players at Leicester. It's crazy. Not a single key tackle in the entire division. What's the point? What's the point? Why is that even? Why even have this then? Like, if no player is going to be able to even trigger that, then why even have it as a stat? I know that what it means is that any tackle that prevents a goal of a certain XG chance is a key tackle, but then either set the chance threshold lower so it actually generates stats, or then don't have it at all, you know? Seems a bit pointless. Key headers, Demaran, 226. What an absolute boss. He is ridiculous. I love him. And Kyle Wilson in there as well. When he's not elbowing people, he is putting up good numbers. Interceptions made 2. Farmer, 75. That's good. Some of them are quite dangerous interceptions to make, but nevertheless, good to see that happening. Clearances as well. Demaran, 595. Nobody else even comes close to him from our lot. Kamara's there as well. Buendia's been... Has he been fouled, or has he made the most fouls? 92 fouls. That's a lot of fouls. Goalkeepers, obviously McCann is on that list as well. Most clean sheets was Aaron Ramsdale with 19. Saves held, obviously this is a little bit less important as we get to this point. Saves ratio though, 81%. McCann, pretty solid. Like, he's saving a good amount of them. Although save ratio is not the best. One thing I would like to see, and I don't think this would be beyond the realms of possibility for FM because of the data it already has, would be able to see the goalkeepers like expected goals against based on the number of saves they made, i.e. how many goals they've prevented over or under the amount the team would have expected to have conceded. I suppose you could kind of work that out anyway, but you have to work out who was goal at each time in that. So I suppose there's definitely, I mean, you could argue that definitely he's saved us games at times because we have, conceded less goals than we're supposed to have. So he's definitely been part of the reason for that. So anyway, quick glance now at the actual squad. Make a couple of little assertions. I don't think I'm going to dwell too much on it unless I notice anything amazing though. Okay, so left wing backs. So really it's just Farmer and Hung. I want to see how they compare. This will be a fascinating experiment. Now, obviously, he's played... I would like to have had him play a few more minutes, and that was my plan towards the end of the year as it goes, but there you go. But we'll still be able, if we notice anything impressive, then we'll still be able to see it. That's the key thing. It's perhaps not gospel, but it's definitely there. So Booty, obviously over a smaller period, did intercept a little bit more. Those two are basically tied. Tackles 1, basically tied. Although a bit more tackles, though, for Hung. So fair play. Do concede a lot more with him in the team, though, and he has got the height. That's the one thing he definitely offers over Manny Farmer that is completely undeniable. He's 6'1". Farmer's like, 5'9". He's going to be better in the air, and that will help. Assist per 90 minutes is slightly better. Cross completion as well, slightly better. Which is why I wanted to get Farmer working on his crosses, because he gets into positions. I just wanted to complete a few more of them. Key passes per 90 minutes, Hung, slightly better. Dribbles, slightly worse. Assists, obviously he's played less games, so we can take into that what you want. Do score a bit more. PPG, much lower on Hang, but his XG is obviously minuscule compared to Manny Farmer. But I feel like Farmer should have scored more. Like, look at that. He has to score more goals. If he'd scored 3, I'd have been alright with that. Hung just hasn't really been in the shooting chances. What I'm seeing here is that they're mostly evenly matched on most areas. Hung is better in the air, which we know based on his height, and he does seem to have slightly better, like just to the point where it's noticeable, on cross completion and key passes, which is good because it means next season I think he's a genuine viable option for us. So we don't have to play Manny Farmer in every game, and we're going to have to rest players, particularly with a European campaign coming up. Now, no matter how far we go or don't go in the Champions League, because I think we go in a knock. I don't think we go straight into the groups, do we? I'm pretty certain we have to play a playoff round, so there is still a chance we could not get in at all. And then obviously we'll get pot 4, which means we'll be in an incredibly difficult group. So best case scenario, depends on who we're in with, of course. We could maybe try and snatch 3rd or something and play Europa League after Christmas. I don't know. The point is we're going to need a bigger squad in order to do that. So I think there's almost no chance that Hung doesn't play. And that's another reason why I expect our league form might suffer next year. Because you know how much when we start to have to rotate that things start to get a bit grindy for us. And that's where I think next year we're going to have to accept that perhaps things aren't going to be perfect for us in the league. And it might not even be that surprising if we were to finish outside of the Champions League spots next year, given how, albeit by 6 points in the end, but a bit of fortune to that, how much it took to get in the first place. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't actually get it again straight away, but we'll see. You never know. The players are developing. We'll have to see. So still pretty happy. Wouldn't mind some more support there just in case, because obviously with Hung having that foot injury, it worries me that it might reoccur, particularly with Booty and probably Giles leaving. I want to make sure that there's another player in there, perhaps, that isn't going to play, but is just there in case. We'll be able to be registered for Europe because they'll be under 21 or whatever. As for the right, I mean, it's Brace versus Candela. I think this is going to be fairly straightforward, but we'll actually have a better amount of minutes with Luca Brace to compare this to. So, interceptions, better. Tackles 1 ratio, incredibly, despite having only 10 tackling and bad marking, that's astonishingly high. Although, it might be because he's not making tackles, and like you can see that Candela's actually winning more tackles, and we concede so much more with Luca Brace in the team. It's unreal. That's a lot more. It's more than double. He's better in the air, to be fair to him. Assists per 90 minutes is definitely higher on Luca Brace, but his crossing is worse. Not that crossing is the big deal when it comes to inverted wingbacks. It's not really their job. He does make a key pass a bit more, though. What is his passing like? 17 compared to Candela's 13 and 30. Yeah, I mean, that would explain a lot. The fact that Luca Brace can pick a ball is actually kind of interesting. Kind of heavy tied on dribbling per game. We do score more with Luca Brace in the team, and the PPG is actually higher, interestingly. They've both kind of met their expectations on this. Luca Brace even scores more per 90 minutes, hits the target, well, doesn't hit the target more ratio-wise, but he does have more shots per 90 minutes on target, or is that just shots? No, it is shots on target. Huh. And also, no mistakes leading to goals for Luca Brace, too. Bracey's kind of interesting. Like, we definitely do seem to be worse defensively with him in the team. Maybe. Or, I mean, clearly. But we're also better going forward with him in the team and do seem to actually still win more games. It feels like you're likely to win 3-2 with Luca in the team. I still think that I'm going to go do a deep dive and try to find the guy for the position this summer. That's my main task this summer, is to find the guy. Even if we have to retrain him entirely, position-wise anyway. I want to find the guy with the perfect attributes for that role, no matter how much we have to pay. Because I feel like once we find that player, that's it, they're in. But it's certainly interesting to me that Brace's... Like, the fact that he's been able to use that passing ability. Now, is some of that because he played further up, potentially? Not really. One time he played as an attacking midfielder, and he did score there. So, but like, that's off the bench, I think. So I don't think it's the end of the world. And he hasn't played his best there when he has played there. But still, I think it's interesting how much the key passes actually do seem to matter for that role. And so, what I mean by that is that I'm noticing that, yeah, you could have a player, you could have a centre-back that's got outrageous passing. Like, he could have 20 passing. But if you're playing him in a role that doesn't involve him doing a lot of key passing, then he's not going to, like, accumulate a lot of key passes. The fact that Luca Brace does have good passing and is actually racking up key passes regularly shows to me that the role does allow that to be useful. So it's something I will maybe focus on more than I was intending on. Because obviously we want to prioritise things like the passing over things like crossing, because he's mostly going to be in field, acting like an extra midfielder that could do a defensive role as well. So I think that's definitely what we're going to look for. I'm massively going to try and find someone. But at the end of the day, we've got Candela for another year, and we've got Luca Brace, should that once again fail to come to pass. But that's my number one priority this year, so I'll be a bit disappointed if I can't find anyone. But of course, with the regen bug thing still being in the game, clubs, I've noticed that the number of regens in the game, or not the overall number of players in the database is shrinking year upon year at the moment. There's nothing I can do about it. As for centre-backs, so Demaran, Wilson, DePestra, Famewo, and Garces to a certain extent as well. I think they're all definitely worth a mention in this breath. So this will be fascinating. You can see that interceptions. I mean, look at this. This is all because he doesn't make those aerial challenges, because he doesn't have the height, and that is a problem for me. Unless he's making that up somewhere else, I think that's a real issue. And you can see again, his tackles-1 ratio is vastly worse than most of our key players. Hang on, am I missing someone here? Yes, okay. I was wondering where Mohamed was. That was weird. I thought I already had that unticked. Anyway, yeah, you could see, again, they're all above a reasonable level, whereas Depestra's so far below. And again, Demaran, Mohamed, Wilson, all 84% or above. And Garces as well, he's looking like the most viable option of the rest of them. He's doing well on interceptions, and he's reasonably good in tackles-1 ratio as well, despite having not played that much. But Firmino does okay on the interceptions, but struggles a bit here. Tackles per 90 minutes, they're all in that reasonable level. These guys are off the boil a little bit here, although not too much. Depestra's okay in the tackle. We know he's got like 17 tackling, doesn't he? No, 14. Okay, so he's not even that good in the tackle. But, I mean, statistically, he's fine. Team conceded per 90 minutes. Again, Depestra, huge amounts. These three, much, much lower. Garces, again, slightly better than Depestra. Not amazing, but does still look like the most viable of these three as like the third choice in this sort of situation. Headers 1. Demaran's obviously a god. Depestra's not, he's better than Firmino, but again, you can see Garces is the closest to this lot as far as who I would potentially turn to and should perhaps turn to next season instead of Depestra, because his numbers are better for the most part. Key pass-wise, he's not... I mean, the thing is, Depestra's got great passing, and you just don't see it, because, again, the role is not really designed for that. We don't score that much with Depestra in the team, although it's not that much worse than these guys, but Garces is looking good. PPG, again, is the highest with Garces, excluding these guys as well. He scored a goal. He hits the target more with his headers. He actually has a decent number of them as well. I assume he's got a bit of height to him, does Garces. 6'4". I think that it's time that Juan Felipe Garces, if that is his name, how to pronounce it properly, is starting. I think this is why I love doing this analysis. Like, this right here is the reason I love analysis videos, because I would never have thought that he would be putting up better numbers than Johnny Depestra. That obviously the average rating's better, but then I would say, you know, smaller sample size, etc, etc, etc. So the fact that I've been able to see that, for me, is why I like doing these, because there's no reason here that I can see why he shouldn't be starting over Depestra. Apologies if you can hear like tweeting. I've got the birds. I've got the window open, and the birds are extremely loud this morning. They wouldn't even dress me in the woods. So yeah, I think next year Juan Felipe Garces is going to be our fourth choice centre back. Quite simply, he has to take priority over Depestra. I really want to give Johnny a chance, but every single metric that I can see here, with the exception of maybe... No, I actually can't see anything that he outranks him in. Not a single thing that makes it better. Yeah, there's literally not a single stat that I can see that Depestra ranks higher than Garces in. And that's all I really need to know. And he's younger too, so he's got the role. Congratulations, Philip, you're hired. So yeah, maybe I'll look for another youngster but I think it's actually an area where we've got a decent amount of... Do we? We have 3 players there for 3 roles, plus Depestra, Garces, and Firmino. But if I could find one more, I wouldn't be bothered. I wouldn't be... I think it's... If I could find someone who's like young and high potential, like cheap, then maybe I'll go for them as well. So, central midfielders. Again, I've sorted it by minutes so we can get a better idea of who's who and what. So, Ilic, obviously Kang. Although we'll kind of ignore Kang for now. We'll talk about more with him in the one further up, because I don't believe that... Well, Pombo is there, actually. So, to be fair, is there anyone that... I mean... Oh, no, we'll do all of these 3 comparisons at the same time, because they're all on the same screen anyway. So, Ilic has actually played the most out of the lot. Interceptions, of course. Booty, we will ignore that. Pombo, though, with a good amount of interceptions. As does Kang. Sort of struggles compared to those guys. Gilney with a decent amount as well. Colombo and Stas right down towards the bottom, the Met Salah boys. Kirosh, though, I don't know if he's actually played any other role than... Then again, not enough minutes, maybe. Maybe it would have dropped a bit. Tackles per 90 minutes. Ilic with a really nice amount. That's what I would say about Ilic. He does definitely do a defensive shift that you can see the others just don't do. Gilney does an okay job. Conroy just doesn't bother at all, apparently. And then... Yeah, I don't know why Can Garces play the midfield as well? He actually can, to be fair. Not that we'd want him to do that job, of course, but he actually can do that, were it to be offered to him. Conroy, defensively, not bad. Colombo as well. Better defensive... Well, we concede less goals with Colombo in the team than Stars. Kang... I mean, that's the thing. Like, look at the difference between Kang and Pombo. That is astonishing. That might just be because of the lower number of minutes for Pombo. He might just happen to have been on the pitch for a couple of late comebacks potentially, or just like when we give up late in the game. So I don't think that's entirely fair, but still, it's noticeable in it. He's still better than O though, which is the main thing there. Headers 1 per 90 minutes. Obviously Garces, but Pombo not bad in the air as well. But again, you have to, if I'm going to credit it the other way, then it has to be both ways as well. O is definitely better in the air than Kang for sure. But what I'm more interested in is the creative side of things. Kang, great, really good. Ilic though, still better assist ratio than Conroy. And after all, he is a deep line playmaker, so that's kind of what he wanted to do. So he does still rank better than everybody else this year that's played in that role. So I can't really deny that. Chance creation, we'll kind of ignore that because it doesn't really matter that much. Key passes though is where it's at. Kang at 5.07. Look how much the drop-off is between there. And Pombo has just yet to really get going. But again, same kind of thing. What about our more creative players in there too? So Ilic, only 1.47. Gilney, 0.92. Who else has even played in that role this year? Conroy at 2.0. That's actually interesting. Conroy wasn't that far off from this one too. So there's definitely something to be said for that. Dribbles for 90 minutes. Interesting that O actually makes more dribbles than Kang does, particularly as it just doesn't look like it most of the time when O's in the team. But there you go. Team goals for 90 minutes. Bracey's obviously up there. Now Conroy's up there too, which is interesting, and so's Garces. Obviously, we don't talk about him right now. Gilney's slightly higher. O's right down towards the bottom. So's Pombo. So make of that what we will. What about PPG? Pombo, that's interesting actually. We just win a lot of high-scoring games with Pombo in the team, to be fair. What about team goals per 90 minutes? Conroy's very, very high on that, but it definitely gives me pause for thought on old Victor Conroy. My point is, though, we've got a lot of players for the roles in this. We've got, Kang and O and Pombo. 3 players for one role in the midfield, in the advanced midfield role. Looking a bit further back, we've got Conroy, we've got Gilney, we've got Ilic, all vying for one role. Even Morton Croker, technically. And then for the other side of that, we've also got Kirosh, Stas, Colombo. There's plenty of options in that central midfield, and I think it would take... I don't want to sign another player here because we could end up with the Stas situation all over again, and I just don't think it was worth the money we spent on him for the output that he's given us this year by any means. Right-hand side midfielders. Now, it's going to be difficult to compare here because Ivanov has played, as we checked earlier, 15 games at striker, so it's just hard to know. What I am interested in things like cross completion, 30% for Christensen, 25 for Colombo. Now, obviously, we don't know how much he's played in this role. He would have played her a few times, but it's not a lot, is it? 7 compared to 23 elsewhere. It's hard to know, really. It's what am I even looking for here? Key passes, perhaps, just to see if there are any. So it's a good amount for Christensen compared to Ivanov. So that's a nice sign. He hits the target a lot. I really like Christensen, to be fair. I think he's a very good player, overperforming. He gets those chances and he takes them, and I'm actually really pleased with him. So, I mean, look at that defensively as well. When he plays, we do not look bad at the back. We're not spectacular for PPG. I think it keeps the games a bit cagey, but then again, Ivanov's only slightly better on that one. But he has scored a decent number of goals. I'm happy with his performance this year. They've both done really, really well, quite simply. So, yeah, not much to really say about that. I wouldn't mind a young right winger, though, just to be sure. And lastly, strikers. Now, the problem we've got is that these are the only 2 recognised strikers in our first team squad, which is why I'm immediately going to say we need to sign a youngster to back these 2 up, particularly if Ivanov's going to be playing the right wing a lot of the time. So that means we'll have nothing other than Graham Goldston, and that's quite a drop-off to have to go with, as we've seen in the past. So the comparison between these 2 should be fairly obvious. Now, certain areas where Veselin Ivanov is good at outperforming because of mostly playing off that right-hand side, that's for sure. Zach, headers 1, both around about the same. Creativity, though, both around about the same. Kim could even do a bit of better crossing. Ivanov likes to key pass a bit more. Kim likes to dribble. Same number of assists. We score more with Kimmy in the team, but PPG is actually a tiny bit lower. XG is ridiculous. Kim's just an absolutely godly striker. I don't know what else there is to really say about this. I just want a young backup that can sit behind these guys. So that's really my plan this summer. Maybe a left wing back signing just to fill the gap and plug things up, maybe. Right wing back, absolutely essential to try and find the guy. Young centre back backup, perhaps. Young right wing backup. Central midfield, I'm completely happy with, unless I found like the next bloody Kaka. And then strikers, again, young backup. I actually think this might be a summer where the squad overall starting 11 isn't going to change that much, to be honest, if that's what you're expecting. I just don't think it needs to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And a lot of our players are... It's not like we've got a lot of players who are aging out of the squad. They're all, a lot of them, not even close to their primes yet. And that's one of the beautiful things about... This is why I like to sign young players and young teams and get the whole team very, very young very quickly, because... Sometimes you could have an entire transfer window then where you sign nobody and yet the team gets legions better because simply they've just got better. The players will continue to get better. Not everyone, of course. Some of them will plateau or whatever. But if you sign the right personalities, the right players, with the right, hopefully, good set up for the future with the right training, we can still see progress despite not actually even changing the lineup particularly. Although I do still imagine that we might see a couple of new faces in anyway. So a young striker as well. And honestly, that's probably going to conclude it for this right now. It's actually been, I say that as if it's not been a really long video. Normally these are quite short, but this has been a bit of a longer one because I babble quite a lot. But hey, I suppose you wouldn't be watching it if you didn't enjoy that to a certain extent. These are basically podcasts at this point. So, word of the day is Frizz Ease. John Frieda, M's left this extra strength Frizz serum with bamboo extract on my desk because, you know, M leaves things on my desk and I'm always grateful for it. It always helps on analysis videos to come up with a new word of the day. So yeah, use that in a sentence if you can somehow. Don't know how you'll do that one, but let me know you got this far into the video. So, I will see you tomorrow for transfer special goodies. It's going to be a weird one, friendos. A very weird one. I'll see you guys soon. Hold your gun, capybara. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.